what are some early signs of burnout that maybe you've noticed in yourself, and how do you address them? How do you know when you're about to be like, oh, I'm taking it too far, I'm a little burnt out?
I get like extra creative blocks, I've noticed. Like I just can't think of what to create. And that's when I know I'm like starting to get there.
I feel that too, and I feel like I have trouble sleeping when I'm super burnt out, which you'd think would be the opposite, but I will lay there with like anxiety because I haven't taken a break, you know?
Yeah, mine's the opposite. I get really exhausted and just like want to do nothing and just feel like my body needs rest all the time.
Mine is,
Panic attacks.
yeah, I start getting mad that I've scheduled things.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I can't believe I scheduled this. Why do I have to do this? And whenever I start thinking, I'm like, oh, I should probably take a break. Should probably take a break because I'm very much like I like to do things. And so when I'm like, ooh, I don't want to do anything right now, I'm like, ooh, we're doing too much. So,
Mel?
I feel like I get irritable. Like I just get annoyed.
Yeah, I think I most resonate with Lilia's. I will look at my schedule and I'll be like, no, I have so much to do. Like, and I think I just get to the point where I have a mental like argument with myself in my head where I'm just like, should I just cancel the whole day and like take the day off? Like, am I at the point where I need to just like literally walk away from everything and like not pay attention to this for a little while? Molly, what do you think?
Oh my gosh, I'm like agreeing with everyone, but everyone said so many different things too. But the sleep thing is so real. It literally just happened to me last night. That's why when you said that, I was like, okay, I'm not the only one. I just feel like as soon as it's not fun anymore, I know someone else said that too. I know something's wrong because like the reason I quit my corporate job to do this was because I wanted a fun job all the time. So as soon as I feel it not being fun, I'm like kind of have to scale back. And that literally has been happening to me this week and this past week just because I feel like summer is really slow in general. So it's kind of like that fight of there's no work, I can't think of any ideas, and then it just kind of like explodes from there, especially since adults don't have like that summer break. So everyone else is like, my kids are off, like kids are off from school, and then like younger friends that if I even have any that are still in college and stuff are like, I'm on summer break. I'm like, I don't know what that is anymore.
Yeah,
one
we
of the one of the things, so my mom just retired from being a teacher, and her friend made a very interesting point the other day because she was like, I feel like I'm bored. I feel like I'm boring. I don't feel like I have any hobbies because it's summer, everybody's doing things. And her friend goes, life revolves around school, where like summer break is, the kids are off. So families are like, it's vacation time, it's this time, it's that time. So, brands are looking to do more summer stuff, more family oriented stuff, because all the families are together, because the kids are out of school. But then once fall starts, it's like things start falling back in place. And as a teacher myself, like I feel that. I was like, oh my gosh, you're absolutely so right. So
I feel like the craziest part too is we know this, but then every year it's a cycle of like, why do I hate certain times of the year? And the same thing happened to me. I was like, last summer was not the best. The summer before was not the best. And I'm like, what's the common denominator here?
Yep. Okay, so I want to hear from, these are all very like accurate things I think that we all experience. With the thing that you shared, what is it that you do to combat that? Like what is it that is actually like, how do you address it before it gets big and turns into like, okay, now I have to like actually clock out, like I have to take a step away? Like how, when you're in that kind of like in between place of, okay, I feel like something is like about to happen, I'm not feeling my best, before it actually escalates, what are you doing to combat it?
I know a lot of people would say like taking a break, and to some degree, yes, but I feel like I just look for inspiration again. For me,
Yeah.
usually my cause of burnout like leads me to being, not my cause, burnout causes me to feeling very uninspired. I've noticed that then all of a sudden I have no ideas and no creativity. Everything went out the window. So I like to take a step back, and instead of like focusing on what am I going to post, what am I going to create, I'm like, okay, what are some ideas? Let's just start there. So I like to go on Pinterest. I scroll my For You page, and again, you don't want to copy anybody, but it's just inspiration. What types of videos are people making? What would resonate with my audience? So that's where I go. I kind of go back to the drawing board. That's what helps me. By the way, I'm so sorry. The trash guy is outside, so if you hear beeping, yeah, that's what's going on outside.
I can't even hear it.
Okay, well, I can hear it, so I'm like, oh my God.
I mean, to be honest with you, I feel like this meeting is helping me. Like, I am straight up still in my pajamas today. Like, I did have a photo shoot this morning, but I feel like going back to what everyone was saying about sleep, I definitely like come alive at night. Like, my anxiety is keeping me up at night, so then I'm exhausted all day and I'm not motivated during the day. So like right now, like, I know I have my camera off. I might pop on. I don't know. I look terrible, but I'm like trying to multitask. So I feel like listening to this as I'm like trying to do little mundane tasks is helping me. So thank you guys for being here and chatting all about, you know, the things that we all go through that I feel like a lot of the time we feel like we're the only ones. So.
Yeah.
I feel like for me, I try to work out and I try to like move my body in some format, whether that's like getting on the bike or like doing just like a HIIT workout or something, just to kind of have everything move through me. I used to be a long distance runner, just like for funsies. And so I found that like whenever I would get really upset, I would go for a run and I would feel immediately better. And so I'm just kind of, anytime I feel like, okay, I feel kind of gross, I feel like, like I'm like really tired. I'm like, I don't want to do this, but I know I'm going to feel so good after I do it. So I try to just move my body in any way. It doesn't have to be anything like crazy, but you know, just getting on the bike. And Peloton now has, I don't know who has a Peloton here, but you can link your Netflix and Disney Plus to it.
Wow.
So I've been biking to like Disney movies and just like, you know, trying to do that. So it's been, that's like definitely been a lot of motivation just to help me kind of, you know, get out of it. If I don't want to do a full workout, I'm like, I want to watch a movie, but I'm gonna move while I do it. So
Working out to Milan is elite.
That's like a very niche solution. But
hey, but it works.
hey, whatever works, I'm not knocking it.
I can relate to what Monica said. Like just like kind of like not copy other people, but just like look for like inspiration. I actually just saw something last night. I don't know if it was Instagram or TikTok, but like in the middle of me watching it, I like put it down on the table and I made my husband watch, and he automatically knew. He's like, oh, the things you could do with that, because all the weather and everything, you know, people are bitching about diversions and everything else, and there was just, I literally was talking to my phone as to this is why. And like in my head, I was like, I know I should just make a video and talk to the camera and say this. So it is like kind of looking for like that inspiration.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like I relate to that a lot. Like, I think a lot of my burnout doesn't come from me having too much work. It comes from me feeling like I have like no brain power left. And the creativity, I think, is like where that gets hit the most, because like I don't have, my brain isn't functioning at like full capacity for me to like think of cool stuff. And then when I can't think of any good ideas, it spirals into I don't post anything that I like, and then my posts don't perform well, and then my posts aren't performing well, so I'm pissed off about that. It's like a vicious cycle, but I really do think it all stems, for me at least, from creativity. So when I find that like I get the most creative like spurts of energy when I'm outside of my normal environment. So like if I even like on the smallest scale go to a coffee shop and work, but if I can like, if I'm getting to a point where it's like feeling like it's gonna blow up, I'm like, okay, let's take a little like weekend trip or something. Like I need to have like a little time away to clock out and actually like be outside of social media world and like let my brain refresh. But I also feel like I get a lot of really good ideas or get like re-inspired when I'm like hanging out with my friends. So like if I like I went last week with Natalie and Sarah to a coffee shop and just like sitting with people who like we can like bicker back and forth about things and like talk about different problems we're all having and stuff. Even here, obviously, I feel like I very often will like come out of that and be like, oh, okay, like I'm refreshed, like I have a few ideas at least popping around.
It's definitely the monotony for me too, and it's so much harder like where I'm like because I'm not traveling right now and I'm at home and just I have such a weird relationship with my hometown. It's bizarre. I could like I don't know, speculate all the many reasons why, but it's so uninspiring to be here. And like I think it's especially hard for me to break out of that when I'm here because all like everything I'm doing is in efforts to get me out of here and get me traveling again. So like I'm saving all of my money and I feel like I can't even like go sit at a coffee shop because I need to spend money to like feel comfortable with the amount of time that I'm gonna be there. So I'm struggling in that sense, but it is just changing up like kind of the routine that helps for sure for me.
Anyone else?
I was going to say how sometimes burnout for me comes from being ambitious and anxious, and it comes from like this toxic cycle I put myself in. And I was having a conversation with a coach about this because I felt this burnout through a launch period.
Yeah.
And she asked me, she's like, are you burnt out because of all the work that you're doing, or are you burnt out because you only had 3 people join your program, but you had 10 spots? And I was like, wow, that's what I needed. So it was like coming back to that awareness and like pointing out what actually is burning me out to then break that cycle by just taking a break, whether that's going out for a walk or having a conversation with a friend. And just like morning pages has also been super great for this too, just like getting all the squiggly ideas out of my head.
That's a good one. Yeah, I started to read The Artist's Way and I got through like the morning pages part. It is pretty interesting. Like the concept of like sitting down every day and like first thing you do is like you're just writing what's on your mind. You set a timer or whatever feels comfortable to you and just getting it out there. I feel like I'm the type of person where I want to do that, but I can't sit myself down and make myself do it. I have to like find a way to force myself to do it. I need to like do it while I'm doing something else. Like, cause I can't be a person who sits down and journals. I don't know why. Something is like messed up in my DNA.
Yeah, I get that because sometimes I'm like talking to myself when I'm going for a walk or I'm in the car or I'm like quietly talking to myself when I'm in the shower and like all of these ideas I'm like, wow, that was so good. Like, but then I go to write and it doesn't make any sense and it's just like scribbles. So yeah, I totally get that.
I actually have a really good tip for people on this. Yeah, Monica said write them down on your phone. So I remember when we were at VidCon, Andrea, the girl who was on the panel with me, she's also a really awesome creator, and she was giving a tip about how she gets her ideas out there and like actually does something with them. And basically, she was saying she uses an app called Otter AI. And she literally talks to her phone. Like every morning she goes for a walk and she talks to her phone. And then she takes that transcription, whatever it's called, and she will put it in Chat GPT and say, all right, based off of everything that I have here, like make me a plan for my day, make me a plan for my week, or kind of like process this for me, put it in bullet points. And I think that was so smart. I had tried it at the beginning of July and I sat down and like or I was walking, I gave all of my like things I wanted to say about what I wanted to do in July, and then I said make me a plan for July, and it literally made me like a table spreadsheet type of thing with everything that I had said, but it was cool because I didn't have to write anything down. It's called Otter AI. It's like otter.ai maybe. But I think it's such a cool way of doing it. Like if you're not a journaling person, like you could literally just speak it out loud and see where that gets you to. So I have another question to kind of move on to here. How do you set boundaries to maintain your mental and emotional health while running your business? Obviously, like we're talking a lot about burnout here. When you do get to a point of burnout, that very clearly takes a pretty big hit on your mental, potentially emotional health. How do you set boundaries to maintain your mental and emotional health while running your business? I feel like this is a question that Sarah could write a whole book on.
I definitely have some ideas. The business part though is kind of new to me. Because I did experience a little burnout the last couple weeks, which led to me not sleeping because I wasn't setting those boundaries. My normal boundary for like bedtime is like 10:30 p.m. Well, at like literally like 8 p.m., I will shut everything down. I will stop working. I will not like make a reel because I'll just sit there and like make reels. I don't know if any of you guys do that, but I will tell myself not to. And I will like turn all the lights off and just chill until I go to actual bed at like 10:30. But the last like couple weeks, because I've been working on my community, I have been like working until 10:30 and then I go to bed and I'm like full of adrenaline. So for me, the biggest boundary is like right before you go to bed, like you need to shut yourself down and not do any work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, giving yourself time to actually shut down, turn the battery off. What
I
else?
love this question because I really had to learn the hard way because I was in corporate for 3 years-ish, and when I moved to LA and I was still working that job, I was working 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. because that was the 9 to 5 on the East Coast. So I was like, perfect, 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. And then I have from 2 p.m. the rest of the day to do content. This is great. And then I realized I was working like 13 hours a day. I had no hobbies. Like you guys see me talk about books now. I didn't like touch a book. I didn't touch a hobby. I would literally work until dinner, evening routine, sleep. And then I realized when I did quit, and that was a whole other jumble of things that happened too. And I realized freelance is not based on a schedule, and creative ideas will come to you when they come to you. They won't come to you between 9 to 5 on a Monday to Friday. And that was chaos for me because then I realized that my schedule was up to me and this motivation was up to me. And same as everyone was saying, we edit at night, we edit at midnight, we edit on the weekends and stuff. We do it whenever we want because it feels less structured than reporting to a boss. But I really had to turn that relationship of I am my own boss very seriously. And I would kind of treat it as like, I will literally get in trouble if I work too much. I will get in trouble if I work too late or too early. And to me, it sounds silly because I'm like, it's just like talking to myself, but it works. And I know I put this in the chat too, but I don't work on the weekends and I set like a firm, I won't answer any emails after 5 p.m. on a Friday, just kind of mimic because with my content, it's all brand clients for brand campaigns. So I think to myself, like, what's their schedule? They're probably not reading emails after 5 either, before 9 either. So I just kind of mimic that now because I kind of lost my mind the first couple months after quitting trying to do freelance and stuff. And I was like, I have so much free time. I didn't know what hobbies were. I didn't know what to do with my free time. It was a mess. It was a mess.
Yeah. This is what you just said reminds me, one of my friends, Alyssa, she posted this years ago. You guys have all in this room probably already heard me say this, but every time I say it, it just hits so hard. She posted this thing that she had a conversation with her therapist, and her therapist said, why did you leave a 9 to 5 job with a mean boss to be a mean boss to yourself? And I was like, oh man, it really is so true because like we're like, oh great, I'm a freelancer now. I have all this time. I can do whatever I want. And somehow we end up being harder on ourselves than we actually were when we worked a 9 to 5 job. But it's interesting. Like we really don't give ourselves the same like structure or like rules, I guess, as we would have a 9 to 5, and then it becomes completely lawless. Lawless
Exactly.
isn't good.
And it always sounds silly too, like telling other freelancers, or for example, like I have a manager now for my content. It's like, hey, I don't work on the weekends. It's always like, I wonder if they're thinking to themselves, okay, like we need this anyway. When are you going to do it? Because when you work a standard job, you can just say like, oh, the office is closed. Like I don't work on weekends, or my boss clocks out at 5, so like I do too because there's no one to report to. So I feel like the more that I say it, the more it sounds normal to other people, and then the more it just normalizes it to everyone else also.
Yeah, I agree with that. And like at the recovering perfectionist and people pleaser in me, like I always, because I don't know, when I get texts on my phone, like sometimes it overwhelms me so much. Like I won't respond to them for 3 days, and those are like my friends and family. Like I have now realized that I like need to also be doing the same with like people emailing me, because like I mean like even if I'm prompt, that doesn't mean they're going to be prompt. Like a lot of people aren't getting to their emails like in for 2 3 days afterwards anyways. So like why am I holding myself to such a high standard when they're not doing the same for me? So I like said I've come to terms with that side of it. And then I also like, before we were talking about kind of like the your own schedule part of it. When I'm like super busy, like this is what happened when I like kind of, because I was volunteering in Guatemala and I was working 30-hour weeks for free at a hostel while also still trying to keep up with my content. That was total burnout era, but I gave myself grace and like minimized the like I cut back from like 5 times a week to 3 times a week while I was posting, and I just took a little bit of the responsibility off of my plate, and because we are our own bosses, we like why are we holding ourselves to such a high standard there?
Lily, you're gonna say something too?
Yeah, so one of the things in the fall is I actually have to start working on weekends because I am taking grad classes like at night. So I teach people in their off time, which means I'm working when most people are in their off time. So it's been a weird relationship with that. But I've thankfully been able to like train most of them and be like, okay, on the weekends, don't call me, don't text me. I'm not gonna answer. But with fall coming up, I'm like, okay, Saturdays I'm available between like I think it was like 9 to 2. Those are the only times on the weekend that you can call me. On Sunday, I am going to be gone because I will be working from Monday to Saturday in the fall. And thankfully everyone has been like, oh my gosh, absolutely, super excited about it. And they're all really supportive of the grad school thing. But yeah, definitely trying to find those boundaries and trying to find the time to be like, okay, I'm off. So like literally brain off. So while also still managing like growing my own sewing school while working at a sewing school or like in a fashion department, and then like doing content creation too. So
It's a lot.
it's a lot.
It really is. Yeah, and I think for most of us here, like anyone who's a freelancer is doing 500 different things. So like that's not uncommon, but I think having that understanding that like it is very easy to hit burnout if you don't do something about it. Again, like now when you see it happening, like if you don't get into something that is sustainable, like you guys hear at the beginning of every single one of the podcast episodes that we release, I always will say like building a self-sustaining business, because in the last like 4 or 5 years of me having my business, and even before that in my past life when I owned a different business, I would literally work myself to the bone so much. Same with how Sarah said, like it would be 10 o'clock at night, I'd be like working on stuff. And I did that for so many years that I hit a point where I literally was just like physically getting sick from stress. And this is also like right when we were planning a wedding and stuff. And I realized that my body in my old age of being 30, at this point, like my body will physically react if I am burning out. Like it's not just like oh man, I'm so tired, I need to take a break. It's like I will literally get physically sick at this point, and I'm like, I know I have to do something to stop it before I get to that point. But it's interesting to see like how it can manifest like so differently for everyone.
I think it's also the fact that like hustle culture is also a flex. So
Yeah.
people always want to be like, you work hard, I work harder. And then it's always that competition.
I have a friend who she went to Europe for a couple weeks for like a business thing. She's a party planner and that's her business. And so she plans parties for corporate people. So she got to go to Europe to do this for this company. And she goes, my algorithm there was so crazy. She's like, the minute we left the US, everything was like, watch me make breakfast. watch my slow afternoon, look at me doing laundry, like do like all these very like this is my dog, like that kind of stuff. And she said the minute she landed back in the US, she said the immediate just change of pace with the hustle culture. She goes, it's so toxic, it's so crazy that like we don't realize that most of us don't realize that we're doing it, you know? So yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I'm trying to find a balance right now because like I was like randomly sick with a fever and like a severe headache one day, and I feel like it's because I was like so burnt out. Like I thought for a minute it was like the flu or something, but I was like literally fine the next day after I slept for like many hours. It's just like so hard to balance because like I have a full-time job, but then I'm doing like so many other things in addition to that. But then I was in therapy one day and like I just started with a new therapist, so they're like trying to understand like just what goes on in my life and stuff. And they were asking me, they're like, well, you have a lot on your plate. Like, how many of these things are like actual deadlines and how many of them are you like putting on yourself? I was like, oh, wait, let me think about that for a second.
You're like, what are you doing? Are you making me like psychoanalyze myself like I'm supposed to do in
Yeah.
therapy?
No, for real. And then it also kind of put things into perspective too, because it's like I'm the type of person that's like high functioning anxiety, and I make sure that I like deliver for like work or like content deadlines. Like, but my relationship with my fiance and like with my dog and like home chores, like I'll slack off on that. But it's like you kind of have to like, you know, think about life and find a balance and stuff. So working on that.
It's hard. It's very hard to do. Has anyone been in that situation and like actually overcome it? And like, I would love to hear a story on how you've done that. Like, how have you made that change?
I have a whiteboard. It sounds really weird, but I have a whiteboard, and hold on, let me unload my background because you can kind of see it. Oh, that I it's over there. It's over there.
Oh, yeah.
And I have it sectioned off into like every little thing that I have, like everything that I do between like teaching the sewing school, content and all that stuff. And what I've done is I like put sticky notes on it and stuff. And I can move the sticky notes and I can do that. But that's helped me, and I color code them so that way it's like, okay, what's something I want to do, which is green? What's something I need to do, which is yellow? And then something I absolutely have to do on this day or else like bad things are going to happen, that's red. And so the amount of times that there's actual red on there is like twice a week. The amount of times there's yellow, it's like, okay, you know, there's a little bit I got to get done this week, but most of it turns out to be green. And then that's helped me stop stressing. As someone with ADHD, like it's helped me kind of visualize like, okay, this is my actual workload. And this is, sorry, he's chewing on a ruler. And this is actually what I have to get done. So like, and it's not a perfect system. There's definitely days where I'm like, okay, I need to get everything done on this list today. And it's like all green things. And I'm like, if I don't get everything done, I'm like stressing out. But you know, it has helped just kind of visualize the workload and actually understand what is needed to be done versus like what I want to get done. And I think that that's a big thing like I've had to come to terms with is what needs to be done versus what I want to be done. So
yeah, that's a big one. That's very hard. Sierra said in the chat, I think my brain would convince me so much that so much of it does need to get done. Like so much of it would be red. It's interesting. That's like pressure that we're just putting on ourselves for like what no good reason. But
yeah,
I would say everyone in this room probably would feel the same way.
absolutely.
It's one of those things. Sorry, you go.
Oh no, that was it. I was just saying absolutely.
I was gonna say, like, I don't say sorry I haven't posted in 3 days. I don't say things like sorry I haven't been answering DMs because I'm like, they probably didn't notice. And then I'm bringing this to their attention, and then I'm setting up the idea of I'm gonna respond to every single DM and I'm gonna post every single day. So I've stopped doing things like that. And Kristen, it's similar to something you've been saying for years of like, not sponsored. I just love this. And I'm like, do you not love the stuff in your sponsored content? That's kind of weird thing to say. So it's little things like that that I've also trained myself into saying or not saying that also helps the mentality overall that I don't really owe anyone anything.
Yeah, going back to like the email thing, like when I do let myself wait a couple days to respond to someone and then like my immediate thought is to go like, oh, sorry for the late reply. Like, no, delete that. I am not sorry. Like, I'm taking care of myself. Like, I have to reframe, but it's like an active thing that I have to consciously decide when I'm writing the email. It's crazy.
Sierra, I
Yeah.
do the exact same thing. I'll have to find it and I'll share it in the yes, Krista said thank you for your patience. I'll have to share this little graphic in the group for you guys after our call today. But it's basically this graphic that's like switch these things you would normally say in email to saying this to make it like less apologetic. You know, like there's no reason for you to apologize for taking 24 hours to respond to an email. Like more of a thank you for your patience is like giving the same respect, but it's less of an apology. But there's like a whole little graph. It's like a cute little graphic. I'll share it with you guys. Another thing I thought of with emails too, I have this girl that for the rescue I work with, she works at one of our venues that we always host events at, and her email signature at the bottom says like, these are my business hours. My business hours may be different from yours. Do not expect me to respond in your business hours because these are my business hours. And her, because she works at a brewery, like she doesn't work on Mondays or Tuesdays or whatever it is. And so like it's interesting too, because even especially as freelancers, like our work schedules might look different than someone with a 9 to 5 job. Like I wouldn't even be afraid to put it in your signature if you're worried about people being pissed off for not getting a response from you. Like manage the expectation right up front, you know? I love that she does that. I every time I get an email from her, I give her like, yeah, girl. I love seeing it. Okay, I'm curious to shift the conversation to a little bit more, I guess, logistics. Are there any like specific tools or strategies that you guys use to, I guess, like work smarter, not harder? Like anything that you do in your day to day, in your business, in your personal life that makes it a little bit more manageable for you to be a creator on top of all the other things that you're probably doing?
I love later.com.
Ooh,
Like
okay, so
I
do you use it
I
just for planning or like tell us more?
I use it planning, analytics. They added an AI feature so it'll help you like write content for you too. You can type in a caption. So if you're like, my brain isn't working today and I just here's points for bullet points for a caption. You can say create caption and it'll give you different options for the caption with different voices. And then you can like go even further and say, okay, I like this caption, but I want it to sound more cheerful or more like business or whatever, you know, and it'll continue like writing it for you. And then of course you have to like, of course, like mix it up and, you know, add your own personal flair to it. I don't really ever just like post what it automatically gives me. I'll always edit it. But that's a great tool that I've been using for quite literally years. So I used it whenever I had an agency. I would use it for my clients, I use it for myself. And there's like definitely times where I may not be using it to its entirety, but there's still like the analytics feature is amazing. You know, it pulls like engagement scores on everything. So it just makes it a lot easier to, you know, whenever a brand is like, oh, well, we want like your engagement or we want like a updated media kit or whatever, you know, I can pull all the stats and update it for the past like 7, 14, 30, 60, 90 days. And it's very helpful. I very much enjoy it.
This sounds so simple, but I let my followers give me my content ideas sometimes. So when I'm stuck, and I mean like really stuck, and I think especially with fashion, I get to points where I'm like, I have no new packages in the mail, and like I don't just want to order something just to film a video because it feels very like overconsumption. So whenever I'm just like, cool, what do I do? I'll scroll through comments on recent videos, and instead of responding to them with text, I'll just like make a video about it. So someone's like, oh, I wanted to buy that shirt. I just couldn't figure out how to style it. And normally I'd be like, I would do jeans or a skirt. I'll literally just make a video out of it. And I feel like getting in that habit will also help your audience see, oh, they always respond to our comments with videos and with more content. So then they feel more inclined to leave more comments as well. So it's like it's little things like that where for me it's simplifying it makes my life easier because I'm like, I need to find like a really cool tool that gives me content ideas, and I'm like, wait, literally have hundreds of people asking me questions. I can just pull from them directly.
I was gonna say, I don't know if it's like a planning tool. No, it is a planning tool. I don't know if it's exactly what you guys are looking for to answer your question, but I've been using Trello recently and I really like it. Basically, I found myself writing things down in like a planner, an agenda, like all kinds of things, but I would lose it all. And realistically, I feel like I'm always on my laptop anyway. So it's kind of like a planner on your laptop, and I really like it. I have the free version and it works just fine. So like I'm looking at it right now, and like I have like you're able to create little sections, and then it's pretty much like a notepad, but like I have it bookmarked. So I have like my content pillars, items to film, content ideas, caption ideas, collabs, like, everything is spaced out and it's so good. Like I just love to be able to see it because I'm very visual. I can delete things once they're done. I can edit it whenever I want. And like I said, I can even like when I think of captions that would be cool to use, I like add them to my list. So I don't know. I've been really liking that one lately.
Yeah, take advantage of the creative thoughts when they're coming to you. I love that.
Mhm.
Amy, you were gonna say something too?
Yeah, I've been using ManyChat a lot, because I mean, if I like want to drive traffic to my blog, or if I'm trying to sell one of my ebooks or something like that, um, or use like link it to one of my affiliate links or something like that, it's just so easy to just have the link straight sent to them. And then it also kind of like reps up the comments a lot of the time. Like I remember the first time I used it, I was like, I have 1,000 comments on this. Like how did that happen? And it brought people to my blog. I wasn't selling anything for that particular one, but I mean I use it on pretty much almost every one of my posts. It's so handy for automations.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I remember there was a time when I didn't use it and I would manually message people links to things, and then I was just
Yep.
like, this is absolutely wild that I could pay $25 to not have to do this.
Yep. It makes life a lot easier.
What else? What else are you guys using to work smarter, not harder in your business? It doesn't have to be just for content planning or anything, but anything you're using in your business that is just making your workflow a little bit easier.
Well, I just thought of something else, but it's like repurposing content. Lately, I've been doing that. I used to not do that because I feel like my audience was gonna hate seeing the same thing again, but they forget. And I think everybody forgets. So I've been like creating a lot more like outfit photo dumps of outfits I've styled, and people love that. Instead of like just one outfit focused post, I'll do like I did like a recent summer looks of posts that I had just shared not too long ago, and that did really, really well. So I'm now looking at my because we have so much content that we don't even realize. I'm like scrolling back and I'm like, oh, I could like create this into like a little reel, or I can just share a photo dump of recent looks. It's like very savable content. So that's been helping me a lot this month in particular, July and August.
Mm-hmm. Love that. I love that. It's such a great point. We forget about that, or we get scared to do it, but it really, I mean, like, why would you not take things that already worked? And even if it's not just using the exact same piece of content, like, find new ways to recycle the same things. People, I mean, we all can speak from experience. If you have 20,000 followers, not all 20,000 followers are seeing your posts ever, literally never. So for you to be able to show them that, again, give them another chance to see that, like it seems like a no-brainer, but it's crazy how we avoid it so often.
I just think of my own memory. I'm like, I can't remember what I did an hour ago this morning. So I'm not going to remember what you posted a week ago.
No, nope, I definitely will not remember.
Notion is my like lifesaver, but Nicole in there talking about how like you just get so caught up in it being aesthetically pleasing. I'll take days sometimes where like my task is to make it pretty because I find it kind of therapeutic. I find it like it's related to my work and business, but it's also not, and it's just kind of a mindless task that I enjoy doing. So it's a little bit of a hobby to do it when I like set aside time too.
Yeah,
I love making things pretty. I'm very type A too. I mean, I have a whole freaking whiteboard, like it's a whole thing. But when I get to make something pretty, Man, it's great. Like I saw somebody mention Notions. Yeah, no, making Notion aesthetically pleasing is so satisfying. And you're like, oh, my little charts, and then it can like move from A to B, and you can like move it, and it's like a little game board. I don't know what it is. It just makes the brain happy. It tickles it in the right way.
My toxic trait is I spend the whole day making it pretty and then I don't actually want to use it. Like I'm
Yeah,
like
that
tired.
too. That too.
Molly,
Yep, yep.
no.
Mhm.
Oh my gosh. Morgan, what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say it's more of like a strategy, but I feel like after running my business for a couple years that I've noticed like what tasks take more of my energy to do. So I like to split up my day in like three parts where high level like focus time is usually in the morning, and then around like lunch before or after I'll do like secondary tasks, and then towards the end of the day, whether I'm like watching a movie or going for a walk or something, I'll do like low energy or creative tasks that don't require me to be like extremely focused. But of course, like that might look different for everybody depending on what the task like requires within your energy or time and things like that.
Yeah, that's actually reminds me a lot of the productivity method, like Eat the Frog, where the beginning of your day or like you're sitting down to start your to-do list, you always should start with the things that you are avoiding the most. Like the things that you're like, oh, this is gonna like suck to do, it's gonna take so much time, it's gonna take so much energy, whatever it is, like it's the thing that you're avoiding. Every time I have something on my to-do list where I've been pushing it from day to day to day to day, I'm like, no, you need to sit down and do this one first because then you don't have to think about it for the whole rest of the day. We don't have to keep moving it to the next day. Like, let's just get it done. That's called Eat the Frog. If you like look into it further, it's very interesting to see how that makes a difference. And I've put that into practice a lot for sure.
I also love how that task is usually not as hard as we make it
No,
think up here.
never.
Like I really don't want to do, you spend hours, I really don't want to do it, and then you do it and you're like, oh, that took 5 minutes. I could have saved 10 days of stress. Great. That's
Right.
me with applying for my passport. I don't have a passport and I'm like, I should do that one day. And then I just never do it.
Yeah,
Me
and
and my
that is
friend,
definitely not a hard task.
me and my friend had a passport party because we were like, we
You know
need
what?
to fill out our passports because my husband and I are trying to book a trip to Japan, and he's like, I need your passport. I'm like, so, and she's like, I want to go out, I want to do an out of country thing too. And so we got together one night and just got coffee and sat down and just filled out the paperwork for passports.
I
And
love that. I will be doing that.
the follow up is we're gonna go to dinner and we're gonna go actually file the paperwork. So it's kind of like a two-parter, but
Oh my God,
it's
I
a
love
lot of
that.
fun.
That's a
And
great
you guys something. If you have not filled out for your passport yet, definitely apply for the passport card with it. I think it's like an extra $30. Because if you're in a state that needs to use a real ID driver's license for domestic, and you don't want to go through the trouble to get a real ID, you can use that. And like you could use your passport regardless, but if you don't want to bring your passport for a domestic flight, you can use the passport ID card.
Wait, I love that.
That's a hack. Make a video
That's
about that, Tonya, and there you go.
No,
Honestly, make a
my list.
video.
It's on my list. It's that
I
with
actually didn't hear a word you said until I see the video.
I know. No, it's there's that, but that's also what I was saying before, that I saw a video that I literally feel like I was screaming at my phone. Because I know I just said you don't have to take your passport with you on domestic flights. Depending upon where you're going though, you should, and that's not the passport card, it's the passport. Because people were diverted to an international city, even though they're flying to and from domestic, and they literally cannot leave the airport. It's kind of like the movie The Terminal, but those situations actually exist. So definitely, depending upon where you're going, like if you're going to Puerto Rico, bring your passport because you could end up getting diverted to Bermuda or Bahamas, and you won't be allowed either off the plane or in the terminal, but not out the doors. Yes,
Even
I know.
more reason to have a passport party.
Yeah, there you go.
True. But yes, I know I need to make videos on this. Trust me, I know it's in my brain, but yeah. Anyway.
I love that. I love that. I would like to share some of mine. I feel like as a very type A person, I've literally tried everything. So I have right now, after years of trying everything, a really, really, really solid workflow. So I use Asana, and I talk about Asana very often, and I think people try it and then hate it after 5 seconds. You have to use Asana on the calendar view only. Okay, everything else is confusing and sucks. Look at it on the calendar view because you can basically see it will be like Monday, Tuesday. You can take off weekends too, so you don't even put any tasks on the weekends. You can have Monday through Friday, and it makes little boxes for each task, and you can drag and drop them around. So what I typically will do is I will basically have a task that I want to do, and I'll say, okay, this needs to be done on, Tuesday the 10th. And then I'll just drag it right over there. And then if I get to the 10th and I'm like, oh, actually, like, I have a lot going on this day, like, I want to take some off of this day so that I can focus on this task, I can just drag and drop things. Like, it's really, really easy. Asana is basically like, it's just like a project management software, and I've only ever used the free version also. And like we use it at Soulcialmate, like with Molly and Sophia and everything, like we all use it, and basically like I can even assign them tasks, they can assign me tasks, like we can use it as a group. But it's really, really nice that you can even like color code everything too. So like I have podcast tasks are in green and social suite tasks are in pink, and I can like, yeah, move everything around. So Asana, that's literally how I figure out what I'm doing for the day, for the week, for the month. And it's also cool too, like I use this a lot with anti-pitch where I might connect with a brand, and then I'm gonna be like, oh, next week on Monday, a week from today, whatever, I want to come and make sure I like interact with them again. And so I can even set like in a task that repeats every Tuesday to say like, oh, I'm gonna go check in with this person like every Tuesday until I get whatever. So that's Asana. So Asana is one of my favorites for like figuring out like tasks and managing all of that. I use Notion for like basically all of my like charts and spreadsheets and all of that, whatever. You guys already know and love Notion. And then also my biggest business life hack is outsourcing. I know you guys are scared to outsource because you're like, oh, it's gonna be expensive, or like, how do I find the right person? But if you put the work and the money into it, I cannot tell you how much time it will free up for you to do other things. Like I posted a video last week, the week before, where I was just like, here's how many hours I actually worked. I tracked how many hours through the entire week that I worked, and it was like 15 hours. That's nothing. And then my team had worked another 15 hours or so. So that would be literally doubling my work week if I didn't have people helping me out. And when I was first getting started, I was not making a lot of money, like not enough that I thought I could afford outsourcing. Honestly, I started outsourcing someone for just like things I really, really didn't want to do, or things that really sucked up my time, but I knew someone else could do them faster. So for me, it was like podcast production. So like editing the podcast and like getting it sounding right and everything. It would take me like 2 hours to go through a 30-minute episode and get it the way I wanted it. I pay my podcast producer under $50 for an episode, and literally he will do it in no time. I don't even have to think about it. I get hours of my time back. So I very often will look at the tasks that I either don't want to do, don't need to do, or someone else can do them better than me. Those are kind of like the things that I'll try and outsource to someone else. I feel like I should do a whole podcast episode about outsourcing. So for outsourcing, to answer this quick, I use a company called Socially Ambitious to hire 2 people that I've worked with in the past, or Bryn that you guys know. That is basically where they train people to become like influencer assistants. So they'll teach them how we work and things we do so that they can take tasks off our plate and actually understand the industry better. And so you can go on their website and just say, hey, I'm looking for this to do this many tasks for this many hours per week, and this is what I can pay and whatever. And they'll literally post it in their group and people will apply to it. So I did that. And then also Alex, who's in the group, Alex Porterfield, she runs an influencer assistant company as well. So if you guys have questions about outsourcing, Alex would be a really good person to chat with too, to help you find some help. But I like cannot say enough good things about outsourcing. I would be drowning. I would be so messed up mentally if I didn't have people helping me out, truly.
Put this in the chat, but I was like, just a big reminder, if you do end up outsourcing, you just give yourself more time for the tasks that make you money. That's the way that I think about it. Because I'm like, if I filmed more and if I'm in a couple of the creator funds and a couple of the bonuses, I'm like, little things like that really add up. If you put more time into, like for me, I dedicated a whole day to LTK. Next day I had like doubled what I made the whole month just because I really sat down and did it. So I think about it like that. It's like you think you're losing money, but in reality, you're putting in to make like 10 times more.
Yeah, it's like it goes along with that, like, oh, you have to spend money to make money, which I think like it sucks, but I think it's like very accurate. I think it's very true. Anything else that you guys wanted to add to this?
It's really scary, but it's worth it.
It's so scary. I feel like when you do that, you're like, oh shit, like I'm like legit now. Like I have like people that work with me. Like I think that's scary because you're like, I'm like managing other people. Like I was not ready for that, right? But I think that's like such a big move, what a boss move. And also to just make your life so much easier, like no brainer. Okay, so I wanna end this off the last couple minutes to share with you guys this book that very much is in line with our conversation today. I know Mel read it. 10x is easier than 2x. You guys have all heard me talk about it. Oh, picture. Thank you, Tonian. I'm gonna drop the link in the chat so you guys can check it out. So it's a book called 10x is easier than 2x, and it basically is the concept of it would actually be easier for you to 10x your income than it would to 2x your income, which sounds very backwards, right? Because it's like, how could that be easier? In what world? Yes, Carly literally made me want to set everything on fire. I basically did set everything on fire when I read this. It's the concept is basically that like all of the time and energy that you put into these little like side hustles and little tasks that like make you an extra $50, make you an extra this, they're sucking up so much of your time and energy. And yes, maybe you're gonna 2x your income, but in order for you to 10x, you can't be doing these little $50 tasks here and there. And you know, like if you were to put all your energy into one thing or like one concept or whatever of your business and really like give that their like time and energy to actually thrive, you would be able to more successfully 10x your business than by doing all these little random things and 2xing it. I'm not like a huge business book reader type of person. I think they typically are very, very boring. But as I was reading this book, I was like not okay. I looked at my schedule and I was like, I'm gonna cancel everything. Like nothing I'm doing right now is going to help me 10x my business. I was doing so much of that little like, oh, I just need to make it an extra this much here, extra much that. Like it's crazy. You have to read it. It's so good. So that's a very good book to read. And a lot of people in this group have already read it and have also wanted to set their whole business on fire. You're welcome.